My best friend spent months trying to seduce my husband because he needed to know what's out there. Now, she regrets pissing me. Cassie had been my best friend since we were roommates in nursing school, and she was there for everything important in my life, including being my maid of honor when I married Dan 3 years ago. We did everything together, like weekend brunches and wine nights and couple dates when she was dating someone, which wasn't often because she had terrible taste in men. Dan always said he was glad I had such a good friend and would cook extra food when she came over because he knew she lived on takeout. Everything was perfect until about 6 months ago, when Cassie broke up with her latest disaster boyfriend, who'd been cheating with his ex the whole time. I was there for her like always, bringing ice cream and letting her cry on my couch for weeks. Dan was supportive too, telling her she deserved better and including her in our plans so she wouldn't feel alone. That's when I started noticing things were getting weird. Cassie began texting Dan directly instead of our group chat, just memes at first, then asking his opinion on guys she matched with on dating apps. Dan showed me everything because he thought it was funny she wanted a male perspective, but I started feeling uncomfortable when the text came at midnight. Then came the touching. Cassie would squeeze Dan's arm when she laughed at his jokes, rest her hand on his shoulder during conversations, and started hugging him way longer than normal. At game night, she sat next to him instead of me and kept leaning into his space. When I mentioned it later, she said I was being paranoid, and she was just comfortable around him like a brother. Brothers don't usually notice when you wear push-up bras and low-cut tops, though. The clothing thing got ridiculous fast. Cassie started dressing like she was going to a club whenever she came over. Tiny skirts, crop tops, full makeup for Sunday football. She'd bend over right in front of Dan to pick up things she definitely dropped on purpose. She started wearing the same perfume I wore and even bought the same dress I'd worn on my anniversary dinner. Dan noticed and told me privately he was getting creeped out. The breaking point was my birthday dinner. Cassie showed up in a dress so short she couldn't sit without flashing everyone and spent the whole night trying to feed Dan bites of her dessert. She kept telling inside jokes from their texts and actually sat on his lap during pictures saying it was just for fun. When Dan pushed her off, she played it like he was being uptight. That night I told her straight up that her behavior toward Dan was inappropriate and needed to stop. She laughed and said I was being insecure and maybe if I was more fun, Dan wouldn't enjoy talking to her so much. She actually said Dan probably liked having a friend who wasn't so boring and uptight. Then she said married men need female friends to remind them what's out there. I wanted to punch her, but instead I got creative. First, I started including my other friend Rachel in everything. Rachel was single, gorgeous, and actually respectful. Every time Cassie texted about hanging out, I'd invite Rachel too. Cassie hated not being the only single friend around, and Rachel naturally got all the attention Cassie was used to getting. Dan and I would praise Rachel constantly about her job, her apartment, her dating stories, while Cassie sat there steaming. Then I helped Cassie with her dating apps, but with some adjustments. I encouraged her to match with every guy who seemed interested and set up multiple dates every week. I'd help her get ready and hype her up, then text asking for updates every 30 minutes during the dates. When she didn't respond immediately, I'd call the restaurant to check if she was okay. The guys thought she had a stalker friend and usually bailed early, but the masterpiece was introducing Cassie to Dan's coworker Luke. Luke was attractive, successful, and extremely clingy with women. I told Luke that Cassie loved attention and had mentioned she thought possessive guys were romantic. I told Cassie that Luke was shy and needed someone to really pursue him. Their first date lasted 6 hours because Luke wouldn't let her leave, calling it true connection. Within a week, Luke was texting Cassie hundreds of times a day and showing up at her job with flowers. She tried to complain to me, but I said it was so romantic how obsessed he was, and didn't she want someone who prioritized her? She couldn't break up with him without looking like the bad guy who led him on. While Cassie dealt with Luke, I made sure she knew how great my marriage was. Full story on channel, link below.